Hello, I'm David Chandler, a retired Master Sergeant of Marines, a process improvement analyst, and a student of history and political systems. In today's presentation, we will discuss the root cause of a dysfunctional and hostile government. Bottom line up front, our townships and counties, being the most direct representatives of the combined wealth and political will of the people, have an inherent right to be equal partners in the administration of Michigan. It makes absolute sense that our townships and counties be directly represented in our state legislature. They not only represent our combined wealth and political will, they represent barriers against federal and state overreach. So, what are the root causes of a dysfunctional government? In our last presentation, we discussed the foundations of a peaceful and prosperous society. In this presentation, we will discuss the root cause of a contentious, hostile, and abusive government. We're going to talk about representation. We're going to talk about districts as the root cause of tyranny, and we're going to provide you with the evidence. Who is actually being represented by and of our state government? How is it that special interests gain control over our government? How is it that districts empower special interest groups? What is the evidence of this subversive nature of districts? Representation. All forms of government represent something. Monarchies, they are royalty. They're built on the notion that kings and queens are entitled by God to rule over the land and the people, both being property to be managed in accordance with this holy entitlement. Theocracies are built on the notion that God's priests should rule over the land and the people, using the laws handed down by the priests. Oligarchies choose wealth and power as their gods. They use their position of power to further enrich themselves at the expense of the land and the people. It's the rules-based notion that they can do whatever they want and we have to obey them. Democracies are mob rule by another name. God is out of the picture. And democracies end up being oligarchies because they end up breaking into different interest groups, and then the interest groups get together and they rule over the country. So it's still an oligarchy. In a republic, God is at the top of the hierarchy. The law is right up there with him. But it is recognized that the people are not angels and need an unbiased authority to administer justice. This is where our constitutional republic comes in. Okay, so a representative republic. For a republic to work properly, the proper stakeholders must be represented in that government. Special interests represent a psychopathic element of our society which is only interested in their own good at the expense of the common good. As long as they have a means of infiltrating our government and its sacred institutions, we will be at their mercy. The system's not working, okay? We have to change it, and that's all there is to it. And we're going to get into that as we go forward here. So, what are districts? Districts are sabotaging justice and liberty. Districts are the mechanism by which the many are ruled by the few. Okay? They infiltrate by special interest groups. They can be manipulated to achieve political outcomes. They can insulate the representatives from consequences. They empower and enrich special interest groups. They silence the silent majority. They silence the people. They possess no internal form of government to appeal to. They capture local governments, making them vassals to the state and federal governments. They subvert the principle of fiscal responsibility. They rob the people of their wealth and property. Special interest groups become superior to the local interests, and special interest groups become superior to the law. It is the list of negative effects that are so long, and these are just a few of them. For example, in the federal government, our federal judges are appointed by a president that represents global and other interests. Our senators also represent these powers. Our Supreme Court justices and other federal judges hold these positions due to this unholy alliance between the Senate and the president. At the state level, Michigan has judicial districts favoring candidates who are supported by special interest groups, mainly the Bar Association. The Bar Association is an unholy public-private alliance between lawyers and the state government. Legislative representation at the state level. Districts disregard the inherent authority of our townships and counties as the real representatives of the people. The House and Senate districts represent large populations of people, but not any specific political institution. House and Senate districts overlap, allowing special interests to spread their influence beyond their natural borders. So we have a representation myth. Everybody says, well, the government wants to tell us that we're represented. They're gaslighting us. Look at the numbers here. State representative districts, there's 84,000 residents in Michigan in a state representative district. That means each voter has a 1/84,000th influence over their representative. Is that representation? State Senate districts, 238,000. Each voter has a 1 to 238,000th influence over their senator. U.S. Representative District, okay, congressional districts, 700,000. Each voter has a 1/700,000th influence over their congressman. U.S. Senator, there's 2 U.S. senators, but they're each elected by the whole state. 10 million, 1/10 millionth influence over your state senator. This is not representation. The only people being represented here are, again, the special interest groups. Infiltration. It doesn't matter how moral or religious a people are. If their form of government allows for the representation of somebody else, then those people are going to become subjugated to those people. Due to their size, districts are susceptible to infiltration by special interest groups. Once special interest groups have captured a district, the people become silent observers of their own fate. Because districts are large, money is needed to fund campaigns. The larger the district, the greater the funding needed. This benefits special interests. It does not benefit the common man who wants to represent his people in his area. Once a special interest candidate have won an office, the people are no longer a factor in the legislative policies, except that the population must remain pacified. So our representatives act as straw bosses to calm us down and prevent us from rising up against them. Special interest groups, districts, insulate the representative from consequences. Due to their size, districts allow representatives to make excuses for not representing the interests of the people, claiming that other interest groups also have a say. We can't get the votes. This is the common response to complaints given by unhappy constituents, a symptom of dysfunctional system. This immunity from responsibility empowers a representative to do what is the best interest for the special interest group at the expense of the people. It severs the relationship between the government and the people. Districts empower special interest groups. This is common where this is going here. Once special interest groups have captured the legislature, they pass laws that benefit them and not the country. And it is not only the legislature that is affected. Our district and circuit courts also have districts. Our judges are selected from a pool of lawyers that support the establishment. Our executive offices and U.S. senators are chosen by the largest district of all, the territory of Michigan. Who's running Michigan? What special interest groups? These are interesting questions. Politics is warfare by other means. It has to be understood that special interest groups overrunning our legislatures are using a flawed political system as a weapon against the people. Because these people are also citizens of our country, they are committing treason, and we are, in fact, fighting a civil war. District silence is a silent majority. Once districts have been captured by the special interest groups, the voice of the people is silenced beneath the cacophony of competing interests. Our government, which was instituted to defend us from enemies, both foreign and domestic, has been captured by enemies, both foreign and domestic. We are in a state of war with these people. The people are mostly silent about the situation because they cannot believe that their government would be purposefully committing acts of violence against them. They don't see the abuse of laws and regulations as acts of violence, but they are. Try not obeying these laws. Try not paying your property taxes. A man with a gun will come and evict you, or they'll throw you in prison for trying to defend your property. When we do raise our voices in protest, we're labeled instigators, deplorables, garbage, and terrorists. Okay, in a district, there's no form of appeal. It's like I said, they're artificial lines. There's no internal structure to a district. It's just a group of people corralled into this territory to act as a veil to allow special interest groups to run the country. A district is not a government for the people. It only exists to elect a representative. The only person you can make complaints to or grievances to is a representative and his office. There is no means of appeal for the votes taken by the representative except for in the ballot box. Voting a bad legislator out of office shows little improvement because the special interest groups are already stacking the deck with more trump cards. There's more. They'll always find somebody else to take that old legislature's place. The horses in the race may change, but the rider remains the same. That's the thing you need to understand here. They don't care who the god-darn legislator is as long as they do what they're told. Districts capture local governments. Counties and townships are trapped in these systems of districts. They have no voice in the state government. They become extensions of government power instead of checks against it. Without a voice in the legislature, the townships and counties become subject to the edicts issued by the state under the color of law. Townships and counties that do not comply do not receive funding. It's simple extortion here. Districts subvert fiscal responsibility. Okay, special interests use the treasury like a feed trough. The aim of special interest groups is access to the state treasury to fund their own get-rich-quick schemes. They utilize the legislature to approve bills that approve irresponsible spending. Districts rob the people of their wealth, property, liberty, and lives. Ultimately, special interests use districts to pass legislation and the accompanying regulations to enrich themselves at the expense of the people. It's extortion. It protects special interests by passing regulations which isolate and subdue local interests. They tax the people out of property ownership. They regulate people out of business. They penalize independent growth. And they have a legal system which protects them from any kind of response. Overlapping districts. The truth about Michigan House and Senate. They represent different sized populations arranged to achieve a desired political outcome. House districts. 77 to 91,000 residents. Senate districts, 212 to 263,000 residents. These overlap each other so that a special interest group can run a herd over a very large area of Michigan. Districts establish a representative democracy. Democracy is two wolves and a sheep voting on what to have for dinner. Greater population regions have greater influence over Congress and the state legislature. Urban regions have higher populations and greater representation. Rural areas have lower population and less representation. Urban areas represent consumers. Rural areas represent the providers. Urban areas vote to rob the rural areas of their wealth and property. Because the districts are established by population, only a representative democracy has been instituted. Special interest groups have weaponized the district system they utilize, as you were. Special interest groups have weaponized the district system. They utilize clever forms of gerrymandering regions of the state to control the outcome of votes. The wealth of the nation is systematically drained away from the people and the land and transported to foreign agents. Have I mentioned that politics is a warfare by other means? Paying tribute here. Okay, so here's some maps here. This is the Michigan congressional map. Okay, congressional districts are the best example of how districts twist the representation of the state in favor of high population urban areas. These areas have a very different way of viewing the world than those of the less populated rural areas. The Wayne County, Detroit area has 4 congressional districts by itself. When you add Lansing, Flint, Grand Rapids, Ann Arbor, and Kalamazoo, you see that the urban areas hold a clear majority over the rural areas. The political result of this reality should not be a surprise. There are 13 districts. Count them. The liberals, the globalists, whatever you want to call them, they have the vast majority of these here in this state. Okay, the Michigan House of Representative districts. There's 110 House seats to be filled. More than half of these districts are located in high population regions of Michigan. The lower population districts become subjects of the higher population areas. This is not a republic. This is a democracy. We are not supposed to be a democracy. We're supposed to be a republic using democratic principles to operate. These principles have been weaponized against us. Michigan Senate districts. Again, same rules apply here. There are only 38 state Senate districts on the territory of Michigan. Again, looking at the Senate district map, it's clear to see the higher population districts outnumber the lower population districts. It's a no-brainer that they're always going to win, or they're always going to claim that they can't get the votes because of the way the districts have been gerrymandered. Demographics. If you look at the state of Michigan, it's clear to see that there's 83 counties in Michigan. I can tell you right now, there's probably 64 to 65 of them that are all conservative. And there's probably more than that are partly conservative. It's only the few blue spots you see there with high populations and therefore more votes in Congress and more votes in the legislature that are running our country of Michigan into the ground. And then, of course, we have the greatest district of them all. The U.S. senators are fundamentally U.S. representatives at large. They need to have special interest groups to fund their campaigns. These special interest groups have no interest in Michigan. They only have interest in profits. They represent the most powerful special interest groups in the state, nation, and world. The governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and secretary of state also represent the most powerful special interests in the state, nation, and the world. Now you can see how these unholy alliances build up to create a tyranny in the state of Michigan and across the country. So, root cause review. In this presentation, we discussed the forms of representative government. We discussed the form of government that was meant to be. We identify the root causes of our many problems as the existence of political districts. And we reviewed the many negative results of district representation, leading to our current terrible situation. I hope this slide presentation was educational and helpful. The next time, in the next presentation, we'll discuss the solution to the root cause of our social, economic, and political woes. Thank you so much for listening in. I hope I didn't bore you too much, and we'll see you on episode 3. Thank you.